Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome Shannon Gutoskie, who is with the Community Relations Coordinator for the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. I'm Marlene Young for the Canadian Orchid Congress, and thank you, Shannon, for taking the time to explain a little what's happening over at Purdon. It's a very exciting installation there in the Fen for the lady slippers that's just outside of Ottawa. So Shannon, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you and maybe you can explain a little bit about your background.
Well, thank you very much, Marlene. It's certainly a pleasure to be speaking with you today. So thank you for inviting me to this. I'm very excited to talk about our gem, which is Purdon Conservation Area, which is, like as you said, just outside of Ottawa. So a little bit about myself. Yes, my name is Shannon Gutoskie, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator for the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. Before coming to MVCA, I worked as a press secretary for the Minister of International Trade. I was also the Manager of Communications for the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. And my background actually is journalism, so I was very fortunate to work for both CTV and Checks TV out of Peterborough and Durham region for a number of years as well. And as I said, my background is journalism, so I attended Canadore College in North Bay, where I obtained an honors diploma in print and broadcast journalism. So yes, again, very happy to be talking to you today about Purdon Conservation Area. So just to give you an idea of what I'll be talking about over these next several minutes is our role as a conservation authority, who we are and what we do, Purdon Conservation Area and the history behind it. We'll talk about the colony management, our role as a conservation authority managing that colony. And also we have Purdon, which is 7 Wonders of Lanark County, so a little bit of bragging for us right there. And lastly, how you can help preserve Purdon Conservation Area for future generations. So let's get right into it. Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, who we are and what we do. So what exactly is a conservation authority? Well, we use a watershed approach to manage water and natural resources in their regions. We are local watershed agencies that deliver services and programs that protect and manage water and other natural resources in partnership with government, landowners, and other organizations. We are one of 36 conservation authorities across Ontario, and we work under the Conservation Authorities Act of Ontario. We follow an integrated watershed management approach to balance human, environmental, and economic needs, and this is also known as our mission. So as I said, we are a watershed management agency, and we manage the Mississippi and Carp rivers in eastern Ontario. The Mississippi River watershed is an area of 4,500 square kilometers. We were first incorporated in May of 1968, so that means in 2018 we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary. We are funded through municipal levy, self-generated revenue, provincial grants for special projects, and of course donations. So some of the work we do here, water management, flood forecasting and warning, which is huge right about now with this late April rain and snow that we've been getting. So we're certainly busy in that field right now. We also do watershed planning, watershed monitoring, information management, conservation and education, as well as our conservation areas. We have 3 total, one of course being Purdon. We also have the Mill of Kintail Conservation Area, which is just outside of Almont, and we also have Morris Island Conservation Area, which is on the Ottawa River, just outside of Fitzroy Harbour. So Purdon Conservation Area, the history. Purdon Conservation is 24 hectares in size. It consists of a wetland, a large beaver pond, also known as Purdon Lake, a steep rocky cliff, and upland forest. The wetland has characteristics of a swamp, a fen, and a bog. It was purchased by Mississippi Valley in 1984 with funding from the Nature Conservancy of Canada and the Board of Industrial Leadership and Development through the Ontario Heritage Foundation. The site was purchased because of a large regionally significant colony of showy lady slipper orchids. The hope was that the fragile beauty of the orchids would inspire a stewardship for wetland areas. Even though the prime objective of the Conservation Authority is water management, the preservation and development of lands for recreation and conservation uses is an important secondary activity. So how did the orchids, which are the largest colony of its kind in Canada, come to be? We have Mr. Joe Purdon to thank for that. In the 1930s, Mr. Purdon discovered a clump of about a dozen showy lady slipper orchids growing in the wetland on his farm. His love for the outdoors led him to investigate the nature of wetlands and the special needs of the orchids. He learned that the wetland was a fen. A fen is a type of wetland fed by surface or groundwater, or both. Fens are characterized by their water chemistry, which is neutral or alkaline. Historically, the area was known as Purdon Bog. However, a bog is actually acidic and fed only by rainwater. A fen is an ideal habitat for showy lady slipper orchids. While working in the fen, Mr. Purdon studied orchid cultivation, and he began to apply beneficial management practices, including thinning the brush to create new areas for orchid development, maintaining appropriate water levels, and hand pollination. For the next 50 years, Mr. Purdon became the steward of this wetland, and the orchids multiplied and thrived there. As he neared the end of his life, Mr. Purdon wanted to ensure that the wetlands would be enjoyed and appreciated by future generations, which is when Mississippi Valley stepped in and acquired the site. To the orchid itself, at more than 16,000 blooms, Purdon Conservation Area is home to the largest colony of showy lady slippers in Canada. It is native to North America and restricted to the northeast region of the United States and the southeast regions of Canada. Threats to the plant include habitat loss, wetland drainage, and overzealous horticultural collectors. Purdon's main area is classified as a fen, and the orchid grows mainly in mossy hummocks within this fen. Colony management. So how do we manage these orchids so that they can thrive for years to come? Well, the showy lady slipper orchids grow in areas of prolonged wetness and prefer acidic to moderately alkaline soil. They cannot tolerate standing water. Very few survive to produce new plants, and managing wild orchids is a very delicate operation. In 2006, Ted Mosquin and Liz Brown developed a new management plan for the showy lady slipper orchid. According to the final report, an initial census of the orchids conducted in 1985 revealed that the fen habitat contained a thriving population of some 15,757 stems of this plant, with nearly 8,000 having one or more flowers. 3 full censuses were completed, the first taking place in 1985. Consensuses conducted in 1999 and again in 2004 showed declines in the orchid population. In 2004, the fen area contained only 59% of the total stems present in 1985. Some work carried out in 2006 included canopy removal and monitoring, artificial pollination, and seeding. 5 recommendations stemmed from this report: forest management in the fen as a whole, water level regulation, provide some artificial pollination, restoration of ancient forest in upland areas, and provide unavailable nesting structure for native birds and animals. This means providing habitat for species such as birds, mice, and squirrels through the construction and placement in suitable habitat of bird houses, which are similar to the natural tree cavities that existed in times past. Another ecological factor is grazing by deer. In recent years, deer predation has had an impact on the number of blooms. While the plants did not perish, buds and flowers were eaten, impacting the aesthetics of the blooming season. The regular application of organic deer repellent has been included in the management practices. So what do we do as a conservation authority? How do we manage the colony of the orchids? Well, we manage the colony based on recommendations as outlined in the Purdon Conservation Area Management Plan that was most recently updated in 2006. 3 management techniques are used to protect and expand the colony: water level management, vegetation management, and hand pollination. Water chemistry is also tested. Water flows continually in and out of the fen, so there is potential for flooding in the spring and drying out in the summer. Therefore, control of water levels throughout the year is critical to the habitat. Water levels are monitored regularly, as is the beaver dam located at the outlet of Purdon Lake, which also affects the water levels. Vegetation management includes control of competing species. Trees and brush are thinned to create small clearings and open the canopy. Management practices that deal directly with the orchids include a restriction on picking of blossoms and a program to artificially pollinate select plants to ensure continued seed production. This is necessary as showy lady slipper orchids rely solely on insects for pollination, as the flower structure makes it impossible to self-pollinate. It can take up to 15 years for new plants to bloom, so measuring progress can be a slow process. In the summer of 2015, a group of orchid specialists undertook a full census of the fen to record the number of blooms this season. This is done every 5 years to track bloom success on the site. So a little bit of bragging we can do right now is Purdon is a 7 Wonders of Lanark County. In 2008, this honor was bestowed upon us. Also making the list was our other conservation area, which is the Milliken Tail. The showy lady slipper orchids draw thousands of visitors to Purdon every year at their peak, which is typically a 3-week span in June. You can stroll along the fully accessible boardwalk for an up-close view of the flowers, enjoy birding along the square fen wetland, and see endangered species regenerating, such as butternut trees. Visitors can walk the Tedmosquin Highland Trail, which is a more challenging 1.3-kilometer route alongside Purdon Lake and into the woodland that surrounds the orchid colony. Interpretive signs lead you through the site, identifying the plants and wildlife and telling the Purdon story. The trail is named after a dedicated volunteer, Tedmosquin, whose love of the site and all of its natural features remains an inspiration. From the end of spring to the beginning of fall, the Purdon Conservation Area is open dawn until dusk, 7 days a week. This unique wetland habitat is located north of the village of Lanark off County Road 8. The boardwalk, lower parking lot, and washrooms are wheelchair accessible. Bus tours are welcome, and admission is by donation. So how can you help preserve the orchid colony? Well, we want to do this as a conservation authority, but we can't do it alone. So you can adopt an orchid for $50 to help preserve the orchid colony for all to enjoy. And you can also get your name on a cedar plaque, which will be in the conservation area. So thank you very much for this presentation on Purdon Conservation Area. Always a pleasure to talk about this place. So at this point, I would be more than happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Shannon. It certainly gives the average person in the area an idea of what's being done and the amount of work and how complex it is to support native species in our area. And I don't think we appreciate how complex it has become and the work that's being done. So congratulations to your group for some very impressive work in guarding our native species in the area. And we have a few questions coming in from our viewers. So the first one that's up is, of course, can we buy orchid seeds when we go to see the lady slippers?
The answer, unfortunately, is no, you cannot buy seeds at Purdon Conservation Area.
I may be able to help this viewer out a little bit. Again, the Canadian Orchid Congress do not sell plants. We are a federally incorporated nonprofit organization, but we do represent Canadian orchid societies across Canada. And if this viewer will go to our website, we'll list out the Canadian Orchid Societies in Canada, as well as vendors within Canada that may have this available. They can also Google terrestrial orchids and may find something like that in Canada. I have another one here. Can we bring dogs to the site? So people want to bring their family pets.
Absolutely, yes. Dogs are welcome at all of our conservation areas, including Purdon. However, they must be on a leash and you must pick up after your pet.
Ah, yes, yes. Well, that's great. It makes a nice outing for the day with the family. What other plants do you have there that may be of interest besides the orchids?
Well, there is certainly lots to see other than the orchids as well as at Purdon. So other than the showy lady slipper orchids, we also have the leafy white bog orchid. We have a Marsh blue violet, blue flag, grasses such as slender cotton grass, and trees and shrubs such as tamarack and white cedar. So certainly lots to see, lots to check out, a lot of wildlife there as well to see. So as you said, it's a great outing for the family, pets included, so it certainly is worth the trip over to Purdon.
And I noticed you had those little information signs along the path. So a lot of this probably is pointed out in the self-guided tours that are there.
Absolutely, yes. It certainly is a very interpretive location. So definitely, along with the pamphlets available there, there is the signage. So definitely a great learning experience for everybody.
Speaking of tours, do you offer guided tours?
We don't offer guided tours on an individual basis, but we do welcome group tours. They just need to contact us at the office at 613-253-0006 to arrange that ahead of time.
Oh, and another question, they're coming in fast and furious. How long is the blooming season for the orchids?
It really depends on the weather. However, usually 3 weeks is the blooming season, starting give or take around Father's Day weekend in June and proceeds for 3 weeks after that. We do have a number that you can call to check the status of the bloom, which is 613-253-1756. So that's an automated number, and then you just push option 4, and we update that on a regular basis once we get to that time of year.
Wow, well, that's perfect and well organized. So if I decide on the spur of the moment, I just give you a call or check your website, and I'll know whether it's a good time to go out and see everything. I imagine it's a nice place to visit at any time of the year. I have another question here. How do we get there? And they're looking for, do they bring a picnic lunch? Are there restaurants close by? How would I get there? And what's around where if I'm bringing a family to have lunch or stop for lunch?
Absolutely. Well, it is quite easy to get to. If you go to our website, nvc.on.ca, we have maps to Purdon Conservation Area from all different areas, whether you're coming from Ottawa, Arnprior, Perth, etc. So very clear instructions on how to get there. And once you get there, we do have picnic tables, so you're certainly able to bring a picnic lunch and make a day of it. If you would rather go to a restaurant, there is nearby Lanark that has a couple great restaurants there as well, chip trucks. There's neighboring resorts that have restaurants as well. So there really is a lot to pick from, even though it is nice and secluded in the country. There's certainly a lot around to make sure you get your bellies filled.
Great. You know, someone wants to know too, how much is the entry fee? And I think you mentioned you're open from dawn till dusk, but is there an entry fee to enter the park area?
The admission is free of charge, but donations are always welcome, of course.
Well, Shannon, I know I'm going out to visit because it sounds like it's a nice family day any time of the year, not just when the orchids are out. And again, thank you to you and your colleagues for the amount of work and attention to the protection of our native species in the area. And thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for thinking of us. It was certainly my pleasure to talk to you today.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too.